So my talk will be about say the expressive power of monadic second-order logic for certain say construction on graphs, on particular graph classes, and especially the relations between expressive power of monadic second-order logic and combinatorial properties of these classes. So what I present is taken from the book that I have written with Joost Engelfried, and that will appear in principle in next spring, and also work in progress with Achim Blumensaat. So we have a paper in preparation that will be submitted soon, hopefully. So the motivation for looking at monadic second-order logic is that in particular it expresses graph properties which are fixed parameter tractable with respect to clique-width and tree-width. And this notion of graph property can be extended to what I would call counting and optimizing functions. For instance, counting the number of k colorings of a graph can be expressed also in the framework of monadic second-order logic, and computing optimizing functions, for instance, the distance between two vertices can be also expressed in this way. And there are also some extensions to graphs of the theory of languages, in particular the notion of context-freeness and recognizability. I have no time to present these extensions. So here is a summary of my talk. So I will recall a few things about monadic second-order logic, and then I will discuss the definitions by monadic second-order formulas of orientations of graphs. And then I will also discuss the definition of linear orders and present some open problems related to over constructions. So, monadic second-order formulas, there are actually two types of monadic second-order formulas, or better expressed, there are two logical graph representations. So there is a unique logical language but applied to different logical structures. So on one side, you represent a graph by a structure consisting of its set of vertices and a binary relation expressing the existence of edges, directed or undirected. And the corresponding properties, I will give examples very soon, are fixed parameter tractable for clique-width or rank-width. The monadic second-order formulas which allow edge quantifications, I call them MSO2 formulas, are actually monadic second-order formulas over incidence graph. So the incidence graph of a graph G has a vertex set consisting of the vertices and also the edges. So each edge is made into a particular object and a binary incidence relation. So for G undirected, the incidence relation expresses that V is a vertex belonging to an edge. So actually this graph is bipartite. And the corresponding properties are fixed parameter tractable for tree-width. So this language is clearly richer than this one because every property expressible in this way is expressible in this way. And on the other side, clique-width is more powerful than tree-width in the sense that bounded tree-width implies bounded clique-width and not vice versa. And all this can be done also for directed graphs. So typical monadic second-order properties, free colorability can be expressed in this way. There are two sets X and Y that are disjoint, and every edge has its two ends, not both in X, not both in way, and not both outside of X and Y. So this is expressed in this way. So there are three colors represented by two sets, disjoint sets, and the complement of the two sets. Connectedness. The best is to look at the negation of connectedness, expressed here as follows. There exists a set Z that is not empty, the complement is not empty, and every edge has its two ends, either both in Z or outside of Z. Planarity can be expressed via the two forbidden minors K5 and K33, and so I do not detail the expression, but forbidden minors can be expressed also because we can express connectedness, transitive closure, and things like that. Perfectness, for instance, can also be expressed via the characterization by forbidden holes and anti-holes. Now some typical MSO2 graph properties that are not MSO are the existence of a perfect matching or Hamiltonian circuit or a spanning tree of degree at most 3. So intuitively, all these properties have the following expression. There exists a set of edges that has a certain good property. And in these cases, the existence of a set of edges cannot be transformed, encoded, etc. into existence of a set of vertices. Okay, now I come to the possibility of defining orientations, and I start by definitions with MSO2 formulas, which is obviously easiest because we have more possibilities to quantify. The idea is this one. For a graph G, I guess by means of two sets that I call parameters. So the two sets are X, a set of edges, and Y, a set of vertices. These two sets are intended to define a depth-first rooted spanning forest of the graph. Depth-first is also called normal in certain books, which means that every edge of the graph links a vertex and one of its ancestors with respect to the forest. So because it is rooted, there is a notion of ancestor. And from such an F, one gets an acyclic orientation of the graph. Okay. And this orientation is definable by a formula because we can define transitive closures, etc. And here we can do that. So, I do not give the details, it can do that. And now a third parameter Z can specify the set of edges that we wish to reverse. So here we have a first orientation, and then we may decide that certain edges must be reversed. So the fact is that by means of three parameters over the incidence graph, one can specify all orientations of the given graph, because if the first given orientation is not the good one, one may change with Z. So formally, the statement can be in this way. There are two formulas, alpha and beta, such that for every graph, there exists X, Y, Z, satisfying alpha, which in this case means that X and Y define a depth-first rooted spanning forest, and Z is an arbitrary set of edges. And then for every triple X, Y, Z satisfying that, and for every two adjacent vertices U and V, beta of X, Y, Z, U, V implies not beta of V and U. So this means that one particular orientation is defined. Okay. So now the consequence for that is that if we have a monadic second order, an MS2 property of directed graphs, then the corresponding property of undirected graphs is P of G, saying that G has an orientation satisfying Q, is also MSO. And actually, this statement is false for monadic second order logic without edge quantification. So now I come to this case, which is a bit more difficult and which needs more properties of the given graph. Observation, no pair of monadic second order formulas can specify at least one orientation of any graph. So to take an example, assume this is possible with P parameters, P sets, and take click N with a large number of vertices, say more than 2 to P. There are adjacent vertices that belong exactly to the same sets Xi. So this means that the formula, the possible formula beta intended to specify the orientation define the same orientation for UV and VU, so it doesn't work, you see. So this is an easy argument using, say, basically automorphisms. Okay, so the edge UV is not oriented by beta. So we need more conditions to have that. So first easy case is where we have a P colorable graph. Then P sets can specify coloring with P vertices, and an orientation can be defined, for instance, in this way, from U to V, if and only if U belongs to Xi and V belongs to Xj, and I is smaller than G. But of course, one defines here only a very particular orientation. So for an example with 4 parameters, say 4 colors, one can define some orientations of each planar graph. But with 80 parameters, corresponding to 80 colors, by some technical work about colorings of directed planar graphs, one can specify all orientations of each simple planar graph. So this is to show the connections between results in combinatorics and in logic. So now slightly more complicated, defining an orientation of in degree at most P. Let M be this integer. There is a tournament with M vertices such that for every oriented graph H of in degree at most P, there is a homomorphism H from H to T. This has been proved by Nesetril, Sopena, and Vignal. And so such homomorphism can be specified by M parameters. This is like a coloring. This is some kind of generalized coloring. And then one decides to orient U to V. If U belongs to Xi, V belongs to Xj, and there is an edge in the tournament T from I to J. So this is an interesting consequence, that the property that a graph is uniformly p-sparse is MSO expressible. Uniform p-sparse means the following. For every subgraph, the number of edges is at most p times the number of vertices. So this is more or less equivalent to arboricity and average degree, so there are related terminology. So by a result of Nash-Williams, this property is equivalent to existence of an orientation of in degree at most p. So it is expressible because of that. The existence of these things. However, clearly, no monadic second order expression can be obtained directly from this definition, because in monadic second order logic, one cannot count, one cannot compare cardinality of sets, etc. So now I come to linear orders. First remark, it is impossible to define all linear orders, even with edge quantifications, by a counting argument. So you take, for instance, a connected graph like Pn. You have n factorial linear orderings, and you cannot specify event with a finite number of steps. Second observation, it is impossible to define with fixed monadic second order formulas linear order on all graphs. Same argument by taking, as before, by taking a large graph without edges, for instance, then this is an argument using again automorphisms. Okay, so now I start with the case of MSO2 formulas, which is again the easiest. And there are some easy cases. Rooted tree of degree at most d with d fixed, then with d parameters, defining sets of edges. One can order the sums of successors of every node, and then one can express lexicographical ordering on the access path to nodes. So this is the easy basic case. And now for graphs having a spanning tree of degree at most d, then one uses one parameter to choose the spanning tree, and one uses case 1. And this applies obviously to clicks with d equal 1, and even to say free connected planar graphs, because they are spanning trees of degree at most 3. So now, some necessary conditions. So there is a basic, what I call separation condition, saying that if monadic second order formula beta of quantifier 8h and using p parameters orders the graph G, then this graph has at most a bounded number of connected components, and this number is specified by a fixed function f. So here the argument is more of logic than, it is not an argument using automorphism, it's slightly more complicated. I will sketch it after. So this is just a basic case. Now the more general necessary condition is this one, I call this set. So if a class of graphs is orderable, then there exists a function g on integers, such that for every graph g, for every set x of k vertices, the graph g minus x, that is where you delete k vertices, has at most a number of connected components which is bounded by this function applied to k. So formally, I said that G belongs to the class of graphs having a separation function G. So why that? So I give only a proof sketch for the basic condition. Assume that the graph has a large number of connected components, C1, Cn, and an ordering has been fixed, has been defined by p parameters, and for each connected component I choose a vertex, and then the property, which is a classic thing in model theory, says that whether the formula beta is true for ui and ug, this depends only on what we call the theories of the various connected components, and also the particular values of those two components containing ui and ug. So formally, this depends on the triple consisting of theta I, theta j, and the set of theta k which are here. So theta I is the H theory of ui in Ci. That is the finite set of formulas of quantifier 8 at most h that are true in Ci with ui as a value of w. So this set is not exactly finite, but it is up to a certain syntactical equivalence finite, you see. So now the function intended to bound the number of collected components is derived from the number of theories. Because if the number of collected components is very large, then there are necessarily two components for which you have the same theories. So in that case, we can exchange theta I and theta j, so that the formula beta cannot order properly the two vertices. So this is the idea. The condition, this condition is actually necessary, but not sufficient. So consider, for instance, the graphs of this form, so complete bipartite graphs with n vertices on one side and 2 to the n on the other side. And there is an easy argument showing that the condition is not sufficient. You see. So what additional condition can yield sufficient conditions? So first answer, excluding some KPP or some graph as a minor. And first I start with a remark that Martin-Grohe, by using first order logic with least fixed points, has also a method to order linearly graphs which which exclude a fixed graph as a minor. And as a consequence, he gets a logic, that is first order logic with least fixed points, that captures p time on these classes. So there is a similarity because I use also the condition that a graph is excluded as a minor, but the proofs are different. So I show the construction. So let G be connected without KPP as a minor and satisfying set for some condition. So I consider the first spanning tree chosen by some parameter and with a root, etc. So the main problem here is to specify a linear order among the successors of a node like this one. And now consider the vertices here below x. Because the spanning tree is the first, all additional edges go up. And so I can define the ancestors of C is here, as the sequence way 1, way 2, etc. of ancestors which are above x. How much? Only. Oh. So the idea is to order lithographically the ancestors. So I go quickly. The problem is, of course, that two components may have the same list of ancestors. And now the argument is that if Q is large, then there are less than P successor components of X, because otherwise what finds KPP as a minor. But if Q is small, then we can also bound, but in terms of the function G, the number of successors having the same list of ancestors, because by deleting 1, 2, 3, etc. Vertices, we get the different successors become separated connected components. So in this way, one can order lithographically the access path to the nodes of the vertices. You see. So I had other things. I have studied split graphs it is somewhat difficult to. So the following was about dense graph as opposed to these sparse graphs, and I had other things, but I have no time to present them. Just an observation. For instance, we may think of studying particular classes of graphs that as chordal graphs. Then it is relatively easily provable that there is a little hope, because the monadic second order orderability of chordal graphs is a problem that contains the orderability of incidence graphs, which is equivalent to MSO2 orderability. So, okay. So I think I will stop here. Perhaps I will say more things as a session. Let's
first of all thank Bruno now.